So my friends, welcome to a new crypto update video. Bitcoin at 102,500 US dollars. The path downward is slow and tough. At least that's how it looks. After we talked yesterday about how we didn't manage to break through our resistance up here at 104,000 US dollars, things have been moving slowly but steadily downward since yesterday and also throughout last night. Whether this is possibly just a brief moment or whether we are actually moving down into our target region of around 99,000 US dollars, you'll definitely find out in today's update video. A quick reminder, tonight at 7 o'clock, as always on Thursday, there will of course be a live stream for you. We will of course be looking at Bitcoin from 7 o'clock onwards, and we'll also be taking a more detailed look at the altcoins. That way I can address your questions more thoroughly and cover other topics as well. So here's a little reminder in advance. And before we get started, please give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course feel free to join the free Telegram talk and Signal group. If you're interested in updates, news, and signals, feel free to join. You'll find the link for that for free down in the video description. And if you're still looking for an exchange where you can trade all of this, feel free to sign up with my partner exchange Binks using the link below. There are also currently some great bonuses here that you can claim if you want and are still looking for an exchange. All right, so let's get right into it, into Bitcoin. 102,500 US dollars as stated at the beginning of the video. If we take a look at it, we actually have a nice double top here. But what bothers me a bit is that this whole movement is a bit sluggish. It's very slow, not much is happening, and the new situation is still too bullish. Yesterday or the day before, Trump, I think it was Trump, made a deal with Qatar. I think it was a trillion that's supposed to be invested. I don't know, from Qatar, or 600 billion. Then there was also an order for Boeing from the region for, I believe, 170 airplanes. So the news situation fits. The thing is, right now we're trading more based on the news situation rather than the macroeconomic situation. For example, the interest rates we still have, that yields are rising, like the 10-year government bonds and so on, and that little is flowing into the bond market. Those are actually the events that make things absolutely bearish. But since we're currently caught up in this euphoria, I don't think this is really the proper sell-off yet. As I said, things are moving along pretty sluggishly at the moment. It's very quiet. Right now, we're also in this small support area, right? In this demand zone around $101,000. Only if those break down here at 101,750 will we probably see that quicker move upward, because right now this really looks like accumulation. The heat map is basically telling us the same thing at the moment. There really isn't much left below us now. 101,800. So that's exactly the boundary where we have support. And then for now, there's nothing left to liquidate, only further down in that area. We already talked about yesterday where the golden pocket is. To the upside, the whole situation looks a bit different. And right now, the belief is more that we'll actually pause again at the pivot R1 and that we probably won't follow this yellow scenario for now. But instead, we'll say, okay, we'll move into this box we're already in, and then try to sweep up all the liquidity to the upside again. And that's what it currently looks like. Even in the area around $107,000, everything would really be heating up right now. Let's quickly take another look at the 3-day chart and check it out. There we also see $105,000, $105,500, and then it kind of stops at around $106,000. So it would fit very, very well to just grab this liquidity up here once more before we might actually get this to move, because the yellow scenario is already too sluggish, too slow for me. If it happens, it should drop sharply so that not many people can get into short positions. But at the moment, unfortunately, or well, not necessarily unfortunately, but that's just not what it looks like right now. All right, let's move on to the altcoins. Ethereum, what is Ethereum doing? Ethereum isn't really doing much. So to be honest, everything here is also very sluggish and slow. Yesterday, we had that move upwards again, and then really the whole day since then has just been sideways, right at our pivot here at 2,609 US dollars. So in the end, it's basically the same story here, I would say. Theoretically, we have room down to 2,500 US dollars, where I would say, okay, up to that point. And then we have strong support again here down to 2,400 US dollars. In my opinion, it only gets critical below that, because then things could move quickly. Otherwise, to the upside, it's the same story as we had yesterday. Yeah, for me, that's still the most promising scenario. Sorry for repeating myself. But that would mean we go back up into the area of 2,800, maybe 2,900 US dollars. And then we would get our setup here also for a potential some short entry. Solana, yeah, has formed its top here for now, but again, it's neither here nor there. It grabbed liquidity at the top, just as we discussed. Let's see if that was really the top already. Depending on whether Bitcoin accumulates a bit here now, or if we're really just seeing a brief slight sideways phase before we make that very last move upward. And then Solana also triggers the areas between 192 and 195 US dollars before we head downward. So for me, as I already said yesterday, shorting is not an option. I'll wait a bit longer, be a little more cautious, and let's just see how things develop. Let's move over to the traditional markets. What's gold doing? Yay, we're in our golden pocket. The long position has been triggered. Just as a side note, still I have a stop loss below here at 3,105. So that's this stop loss here because we simply have a demand zone here. Let's see if it was worth it. So the stop loss is definitely set below that level. Let's see if all the waiting was worth it, because at the moment gold really looks weak. But of course, that's also because the euro has dropped back a bit, which we already talked about yesterday. DXY isn't exactly the strongest either. Let me zoom out a bit here. So it's also gone up a bit again in the last few days, which of course hasn't exactly been good for the gold price. But if the euro manages to recover at this level, which we already talked about yesterday, that could also give the gold price a decent boost upwards. But at the moment, yeah, you have to look at this a bit critically. We are in the golden pocket, target reached, awesome, finally, but on otherwise just do nothing. But for me, gold long entry, box reached, golden pocket reached, stop loss below that. Done. That's it. Let's see if that's the case, because if this area falls now, in my opinion, the next chance for a long will probably only come down here around the 23960 area. That was our position back then when we went long at that time. Let's see if we might even get back there again. In any case, it doesn't look strong at the moment. Anyway, if we look at the vectors here, wait for daily. I think I wanted to go in here. All right, daily chart. Here we go, loading. At least here, there's really nothing for us to pick up right now either. Maybe this area here, 3,290, along with this supply zone. That would actually be my overarching target as where we should be heading, provided this long position actually plays out. Otherwise, on the 4-hour time frame, we also don't really have any important zones in here at the moment. So let's wait and see. Let's keep going. Let's move over to the traditional markets, meaning the DAX. Still hardly any movement. So the stock markets are also very sluggish at the moment. S&P 500 is moving sideways. Dow Jones is also sideways with a bit of a downward trend. So in my opinion, the Dow Jones is struggling a bit, and the S&P 500, as I said, is sitting in this other zone. But for me, the bullish scenario at the moment is actually that we could head towards an all-time high if we manage to break above this resistance here. So the markets are euphoric, and shorting is almost suicide, except for Bitcoin to some extent. But even here, I would be absolutely cautious at the moment. We simply have too few signals that point to a short. Macroeconomically, we have enough signs for a massive, big, fat short. But the short-term euphoria bothers me a bit, and it could last a little longer, especially if we look at the stock markets at the moment. So otherwise, that's it from my side. We'll definitely hear from each other again later during the live stream. There won't be a video at noon now. But as I said, tonight for the live stream, and otherwise that's it from my side. We'll hear from each other tonight at 7 o'clock on YouTube. Feel free to tune in. And yeah, otherwise that's it from me. I wish you a great day. Until then, ciao. And as always, stay crypt.